It's complete and total hypocrisy this morning.
Shame.
He wants his loyalists to shut down the government.
Can the gentlelady read a bank statement, an email, a text message?
This is a shakedown.
You cannot engage in personalities against the President of the United States.
Established that
He's tap dancing in their head because that's all that they talk about.
I was here in 2019.
Democrats are the party of shutdowns. You guys love shutdowns.
Very much.
The only thing the president can be guilty of here is being a father.
Because of China money that the Bidens have received?
These are our national secrets.
You are submitting a naked woman's body.
This is a bathing suit exploitation of women. He used his father, Hunter Biden used his father, the Vice President of the United States, to threaten his victim, who he had just trafficked for sex. And the Department of Justice refuses to speak to me. Hunter Biden needs to be held accountable for his sexual exploitation of women. And we've shown more evidence. We've shown evidence. This is what it looks like. A bathing suit is not pornography.
Well, we can't see it from down there, so you didn't make it available to the minority before you started.
I've seen it before. It's on the internet. It's everywhere.
You are submitting a naked woman's body.
This is a bathing suit. This is a bathing suit.
And it has not been clear before this committee.
Glasses on. Do you wear them or not?
I have contacts in. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Gentlemen, and this committee is afraid to bring him before us and put him on the record. Shame. And the question was raised, what does this have to do with it? It has everything to do with it.
And then August 30th, August 3rd, there's another text. And I'm tired of this, Kevin. I can make $5 million in salary at any law firm in America. If you think this is about money, it's not. The Bidens are the best I know at doing exactly what the chairman wants from this partnership. Please do not quibble over peanuts. We talked about influence peddling. We've talked about all of this. This is a shakedown. Like, we can use whatever terms we want. This is a threat. And they believed it because the next day they sent $100,000. Do you think they were scared of Hunter Biden? I don't know. I think we should find out.
Question posed by the distinguished gentlelady from Georgia who said, what about the January 6th defendants, all of whom had lawyers, due process, the presumption of innocence, and they were convicted of various things, including assaulting federal officers and metropolitan police.
What about
the
BLM rioters and $2 billion of damage?
Mr. Raskin, if I can take my time back.
Yes, I'll yield back.
I think that if my Republican colleagues had a so-called smoking gun, they would have presented it by now and would have talked about it non-stop.
Can the gentlelady read a bank statement, an email, a text message?
Are you asking her to yield,
reclaiming
Mr.
my
Chairman?
time. Thank you. Reclaiming my time. Instead, we're sitting here with no fact witnesses and no evidence in this sham so-called impeachment to distract from their inability to fulfill their basic duty.
He lied when he was vice president. He lied as a candidate to gain the office of president of the United States. Now this committee has uncovered the truth, and it is time to impeach this compromised commander-in-chief. Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Gentlelady yields back.
Chairman, point of order, if I could. I didn't want to interrupt the good gentlelady from Colorado, but you cannot engage in personalities against the President of the United States.
We've established that, Mr. Ranking Member.
Okay, and so you cannot say that Joe Biden lied. First of all, he didn't lie.
Mr. Ranking Member,
even if he
established
had,
at the beginning of the hearing.
You can't say it, Mr. Chairman. I hope you
This
agree
is-
with me.
this
You get a
is-
ruling from
this
the parliamentarian. I can provide you all the
Thank you, Mr.
cases.
Chair.
Lisa McClain talked about this earlier, that he is living in their head. I would also submit to you that he's tap dancing in their head because that's all that they talk about.
Ms. O'Connor, 47,395. Do you know what that is, Ms. O'Connor?
I don't know what number you're referring to.
That's the number of active duty reserve men and women serving our nation's armed forces in Kentucky who's going to be forced to go without pay because of the shutdown.
And I should know that because?
No, it's because you have nothing to say about any of this because you're not a fact. You don't have any facts. You weren't there. So, Ms. O'Connor, don't take it personally.
I'm not a fact witness.
Ms. O'Connor, don't take it personally that you are here being used for somebody out there being indicted. This is not helping the American people. Chair, I appreciate that.
All government employees are going to get paid at the end of this month. And also the Democrat Party forced shutdowns on the American economy.
It's okay.
Reclaiming order.
Forcing people to lose their jobs.
It is not a point of order.
It's behind in school.
It's okay.
That's not a point of order.
You know what? All right.
That's going to be not true on October 1st.
Hold on, Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Recognizes
but we
Ms.
can't allow
Tlaib.
people to be misleading the American people. We all know. I was here. I was here in 2019 when the shutdown was there for 35 days. Because you know what? You do know who said this?
I lost track of the
I know. Doreen Greenwald. She was a member of the National Treasury Employees Union.
In Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, Republican shutdown will cost 6,306 of her constituents their paychecks. In Lauren Boebert's district, Republicans shut down.
Democrats are the party of shutdowns. You guys love shutdowns.
Thank you very much.
This entire fake impeachment inquiry isn't about the United States. It's about Hunter Biden. And the only thing the president can be guilty of here is being a father. We have one witness who has a lot of questions, Ms. O'Connor. Dubinsky, one witness who knows something about accounting but has no real involvement in what's going on. And Mr. Turley stopping here on his way to his next Fox News hit. This is not a serious inquiry.
His dad. That's what we're investigating. That's one of the three things Professor Turley talked about, the influence peddling scheme. I want to go to those three things, Professor Turley. False statements, influence peddling scheme, and Joe Biden might have benefited. Let's do the third one first. Is a benefit to your family, can a benefit to your family be a benefit to you?
It is. There's been repeated statements that you need to show that President Biden accepted direct money in order for this to constitute a benefit, even under criminal cases that deal with bribery, extortion, and the Hobbs Act. The courts actually have rejected that. They've said that money going to family members is in fact a benefit, and I don't really see any legal basis for that. Obviously, the strongest case is if you have a direct payment. But this idea that you can have millions going to a politician's family and that's not a benefit, I think is pretty fallacious.
Can you contrast the level of thoroughness of this committee's investigation compared with the Democrats' impeachment inquiry in 2019?
Well, I was highly critical of obviously the Trump impeachment in the first Trump impeachment, which I felt did not develop a sufficient record to support the articles. I actually said that the investigation had merit to go forward, but that they hadn't established the basis for the articles. In the second impeachment, they used what I call the snap impeachment. They jettisoned any hearing at all.
When we talk about a threshold of an impeachment inquiry, was there a House floor vote that had a majority of members of Congress that opened an impeachment inquiry into President Clinton?
There was.
There was. Was there a full House floor vote opening an impeachment inquiry into President Trump?
In 2019.
Is there one here for this one?
Not for this one.
There is not one here for this one. This is an embarrassment. An embarrassment to the time and people of this country.
Unlike Democrats' investigations, this committee, under my leadership, does not launch investigations based on predetermined conclusions. We have entered an impeachment inquiry because, as our witnesses have testified, the evidence justifies that. This is how an investigation is supposed to work.
Produced in the record, in case you haven't read it yet, the letter that Lev Parnas wrote to you and to me. In it, he called upon you to call off this wild goose chase.
Because of China money that the Bidens have received?
No, because all of this is based on the Burisma conspiracy.
The China money's based on the Burisma conspiracy.
Well, I've seen a lot of China money.
Mr.
That went to the
Mafume's
Trump
time's
family.
expired. Someone can yield. Now it's Dr. Fox.
But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
I would say to the American people, look at the evidence before you and make a judgment, and do not allow the White House or our colleagues on the other side of the aisle try to convince you that what you're seeing isn't the truth, trying to convince you that you're crazy. Mr. Dubinsky, you have extensive experience as an expert witness and consultant in the areas of white-collar crime, financial fraud, and corruption. Is it characteristic of these types of crimes that actors hide behind nicknames or other pseudonyms to mask their identity?
It's very common.
What about this first email image is characteristic of financial crimes that you have investigated or provided expert testimony on in the past?
Well, typically you'll see code names used and money is being paid to somebody under that code name, and that's how these processes work.
Let me ask you something. You're very experienced. When conducting an investigation, if your boss prevented you from taking investigative steps, how would you react? How would it affect your findings?
First, it would be extremely troubling if I was told not to continue to investigate something. And if I was put in that position, I'd probably withdraw from the investigation.
Has the Department of Justice ever restricted any of your investigative steps?
No, they have not.
It's amazing.
But I also do believe that the House has passed the threshold for an impeachment inquiry into the conduct of President Biden.
You know, much of the Republican case and evidence has relied on words from Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden said this, Hunter Biden said that, therefore, case closed, there's something here. Professor Gerhardt, we know, I believe it's wide knowledge with the public, that Hunter Biden sadly was dealing with substance misuse disorder, correct?
Correct.
He's been under indictment, correct?
Correct.
Is this a reliable witness that you would deem?
Probably not.
In your assessment?
Gentle's ladies, time's
Thank you very much.
Political figure one is not a pseudonym created by Republicans or Democrats. Political figure one is President Biden, is Joe Biden. Leslie Wolf, as a priority, someone needs to redraft Attachment B. There should be nothing about political figure one in here. This is a response to an email delivered by Joshua Wilson, FBI agent, that said, please see the attached draft for Blue Star search warrant. Blue Star Strategies is a longtime Democrat lobbying firm that Hunter Biden used to put pressure on U.S. government officials to end the investigation and protect Burisma. The Department of Justice was investigating Blue Star for these activities and allowed to retroactively register as a foreign agent.
We also know that if Donald Trump doesn't get his way, he wants his loyalists to shut down the government. How do we know that? Because he posted it right here on his social media. And his loyalists in this committee, who are doing his bidding for him today, retweeted it. And in fact, it actually says right here that the reason why they want to defund the government and impeach is because this is the last chance to defund these political prosecutions against me. So folks, this is not a serious inquiry. This is not a serious hearing. In fact, the witnesses here don't even believe there's enough evidence to impeach.
During Devin Archer's interview with the Oversight Committee, he explained how Vice President Biden developed a relationship with Jonathan Lee. Vice President Biden had coffee with Jonathan Lee in Beijing. He talked with him on the phone and even wrote a college recommendation letter for Mr. Lee's children. Hunter Biden even met with Jonathan Lee after flying on Air Force Two to Beijing with Joe Biden. The Beijing Bidens cultivated a relationship with Jonathan Lee and other Chinese nationals for one reason and one reason only: to access their wealth. As we all know, the Bidens had nothing to sell except the brand, which was Joe Biden. Hunter Biden sold the brand well, making the Biden family millions from China and elsewhere. While Joe Biden was vice president, Hunter Biden became an investor in a Chinese investment fund with Jonathan Lee and owned a percentage of BHR Partners through one of his many LLCs. This was a political problem for his dad, the big guy, who was running for president. In October 2019, 2 months after the Beijing wires, Hunter Biden's lawyer claimed he served only as a member of the board of directors in an unpaid position. This was Hunter Biden's lawyer. He was in an unpaid position. Abby Lowell now claims the money is a documented loan from a private individual. Now, these wire statements are very concerning, and the Biden's defenders' justification for the money isn't consistent with what we know from the suspicious activity reports from Treasury.
Ask a question earlier that I heard a quick reply to, and the question was about the timing of a government shutdown and an impeachment. You quickly responded, never. Do you want to revise or extend that remark about the timing of a government shutdown and an impeachment occurring at about the same time? And you said never.
I understand the question, and if you're talking about 2019,
I am.
There was not a shutdown.
There was not. There's not now.
I understand, but
there's not now. So the people on this side are simply taking advantage of your answer.
In 2019, Representative Raskin didn't think a House vote was needed for an actual impeachment inquiry. And to quote Representative Raskin, he said in 2019.
But I was just going to say that there's no formal constitutional or statutory or even House rule for how an impeachment inquiry is to begin. And so it means different things to different people.
There's no formal constitutional or statutory or even the House rule for how an impeachment inquiry is to begin. And so it means different things to different people. I don't want to hear another word from the left or anyone across the other side of the aisle about impeachment inquiry. This is complete and total hypocrisy this morning. Today, we're going to bring the facts. Today, we are going to bring the evidence. In 2017, the Joe Biden family teamed up with Chinese company CEFC to make millions off of granting access to Joe Biden. Hunter even arranged for Joe Biden to share office space with the CCP-aligned company CEFC. My Democrat colleagues say none of this is relevant because Joe Biden wasn't vice president while his family did these shady deals. Turns out that's complete and total bullshit. It's a lie. Hunter Biden referred to access to his father as the keys to his family's only asset. Those words are going to come back and haunt Hunter Biden and his family forever. Yesterday, the Ways and Means Committee released an FBI memo on the interview they had with Tony Bobulinski, a former Biden partner in crime. I'll read a bit of that right now. The work conducted by CEFC, Gilliar, Walker, Hunter Biden, James Biden, and Yee over the preceding 2 years was discussed in detail. In particular, CEFC was closing significant investment deals in Poland, Kazakhstan, Romania, Oman, and the Middle East during this period of time. Period of time is in reference to the years 2015 and 2016, when guess what? Joe Biden was vice president. As an aside, Rob Walker, in previous testimony, also confirmed that Joe Biden attended a meeting with the head of CEFC. So now we know CEFC was working with the Biden family while Joe Biden was vice president. And I'll continue reading from Tony Bobulinski's report, which says, and I quote Bobulinski, Hunter Biden and James Biden did not receive compensation because Joe Biden was still vice president during this time period. There is a concern it would be improper for payments to be made to Hunter Biden and James Biden by CEFC due to its close affiliation with the Chinese government. Hunter Biden and James Biden both wanted to be compensated for the assistance they had provided to CEFC's ventures. In particular, they believed CEFC owed them money for the benefits that accrued to CEFC through its use of the Biden family name to advance their business dealings. The Bidens, coincidentally, were paid over $1 million by CCP-affiliated Chinese company CEFC shortly after Joe Biden left office as vice president. Now we know why, because it was back pay. I'm going to show another image. This is a text message between Hunter Biden and Gong Wendong, an agent of CEFC. Hunter says, my uncle will be here with his brother, in all caps, who would like to say hello to the chairman. He goes on, Jim's brother, if he's coming, wants to say hello. His uncle's brother. I wonder who that could be. I can't quite figure it out. Hunter puts brother in all caps, and it doesn't take a genius to figure this out, but since I'm not always dealing with geniuses, and Washington, D.C. has been illustrated today, I'll spell it out. The brother of Hunter's uncle, Jim, is Joe Biden. Why was Hunter so secretive about his father? I'm going to tell you why. It's because Joe Biden didn't want the American people to know he and his family were getting paid millions and millions of dollars from a company closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. CEFC knew paying Biden family members was bad, so they covered it up. Hunter knew Joe Biden hanging out with CCP businessmen would be a bad look, so he tried to pull a genius move on us with this whole my uncle's brother bullshit. We already know the president took bribes from Burisma. I also want to add, betraying your country is treason.
Mr. Dubinsky, I want to come to you quickly. A lot of talk about evidence. On the screens in the room, we have an organizational chart from the IRS investigative team that was looking into the business practices of Hunter Biden and his associates. This org chart is from 2014. Now, Mr. Dubinsky, when my former life, I was in community banking, and I'm comfortable with looking at organizational charts. When I first saw this chart, the first thing I thought about was a real estate holding company or a developer, and this is not to demean developers in the great East State of America, but developers typically have multiple companies that float with various business interests and business lines. But the funny thing is that in the business dealings of Hunter Biden, there is no real estate, none at all. So, Mr. Dubinsky, in your professional experience, looking at this organizational chart of business structure, what do you see here?
I see a very complicated structure of entities that are interrelated and would give me concern. If I were an investigator, I would want to know what's going on in these entities, who's behind them, how's the money moving between them, and what is the substance of the transactions? What's really going on here?
Mr. Dubinsky, do you think it's in the interest of this committee that is now in an inquiry phase to actually find out all of the flow of money between these entities and what the purpose was?
Absolutely.
Next slide, please. For my colleagues on the other side, we're going to start talking evidence now. This is now a slide of the organizational chart of the Hunter Biden business companies and with associates from 2018, from the same IRS investigators who broke down the business structure in 2014. Does this slide cause you the same concern, Mr. Dubinsky?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Now let's talk about some more. Actually, one point I want to make on this. Ladies and gentlemen, and I know it's kind of small, so I would love to submit all this for the record. I would love my colleagues on the other side to see this. In 2014, one of the key owners was Devin Archer, who did testify and was under deposition under oath by the Oversight Committee. In 2018, Devin Archer is no longer listed, but his wife, Krista Archer, is now listed. Mr. Dubinsky, when you see a situation where ownership interest moves from one spouse to the other, is that a concern of some level of fraud potentially?
I would call it a red flag. That's something I would look at and again, try to get to the bottom of what happened there. Was it just transferred? Was there money behind it? What was going on?
Okay, thank you. Next slide. Now, this is to a text message. This is a text message between it's going to Naomi Biden. That's what this one is. Hold on, wait, so let me get my stuff back. There we go. Sorry. This is the WhatsApp text message between Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. In this text message, it clearly says, anyway, we can talk later, but you've been drawn into something purely for the purpose of protecting Dad. This is between Hunter Biden and Jim Biden. Last time I checked, the father of Jim Biden and Joe Biden is now passed away. So I'm assuming this is Hunter Biden saying to Jim Biden, the president's brother, that you've been brought in this for the sole purpose of protecting Dad. Miss O'Connor, do you think that this text message would lead this committee to get further information about the business dealings of Hunter Biden and how that actually links to Jim Biden, the president's brother, and why they are so concerned with protecting Dad, a.k.a. Joe Biden, a.k.a. the President of the United States?
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. This is a text message between Hunter Biden and Naomi Biden. And this one is a famous one. Everybody knows this one. This is the famous one that says, I hope you all do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard. But don't worry, unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Mr. Dubinsky, if you saw a text message like this in a potential money laundering operation or a potential pay-for-play operation, would you be looking for information related to money going from son to father?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Thank you. Next slide. Oh, this is a fun one. Ladies and gentlemen, this one is from 2018. This is about 4 months before Joe Biden launched his campaign for president of the United States, December 2018. The highlight is, this is a text message between Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was in a bad way, by the way. He was really strung out. He lost a bunch of money. He needed help. Jim Biden says, "This can work. You need a safe harbor. I can work with your father alone." It'll probably take several months and everybody can read the text. Ms. O'Connor, Mr. Dubinsky, if you saw a text message like this between the president's brother and the president's son, wouldn't you be concerned about them trying to give plausible deniability for the president of the United States to not have any knowledge of said business dealings?
It's worth. Gentleman's time's expired, but please answer the question.
It's worth investigating.
Mr. Dubinsky?
I would agree. I would investigate this.
I yield back.
Hunter Biden gets put on the board of Burisma. Gets paid a lot of money. Hunter Biden's not qualified, fact number 2, to sit on the board. Not my words, his words. He said he got on the board because of the brand, because of the name. Fact number 3, the executives at Burisma asked Hunter Biden to weigh in and help them with the pressure they are under from the prosecutor in Ukraine. Fact number 4, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine on December 9th, 2015, gives the speech attacking the prosecutor that starts the process of getting that guy fired. Those facts, by the way, are consistent with what the confidential human source told the FBI, and the FBI recorded in the 1023 form, the same form that the Justice Department didn't want to let this committee see. And all those facts, all of that was further confirmed yesterday with the information that the Ways and Means Committee released from the whistleblowers Shapley and Ziegler. Here's a communication from Hunter Biden to an executive with Burisma. Devin and I do feel comfortable with Blue Star strategies and the ability of Sally and Karen to deliver. Hunter Biden put Burisma in touch with Blue Star Strategies. What were they going to deliver? Well, that was in a communication released yesterday as well. U.S. officials in Ukraine and in the United States need to express support for Burisma and Nikolai Zlochevsky to the highest level decision makers, the president of Ukraine, the president's chief of staff, and the prosecutor general. That's what they were going to deliver. And were they successful? The Interior Minister confirmed that Zlochevsky is no longer wanted. We won in less than a year communications between the folks at Blue Star and Eric Sherwin, who was Hunter Biden's business partner. Awesome work. Congratulations to you guys. Those are the communications. That's what they got done. And remember, when this happens in October 2016, when the pressure is taken off, the case is dropped against Zlochevsky, this is the second prosecutor. Joe Biden fired the first one. The second prosecutor comes in, drops the charges. That's exactly what they wanted done. And the final step is the Biden Justice Department tries to sweep it all under the rug. They slow walk the investigation. They let the statute of limitations lapse for the most important years, 14 and 15, the Burisma years when all that income's coming in. They try to put together this sweetheart deal and get it past the judge. And we learned yesterday in the search warrant examining Hunter Biden's electronic communications, they weren't allowed to ask about political figure 1. Political figure number 1 is the big guy, is Joe Biden. And they would have gotten away with it all. They would have gotten away with it all except for 2 brave whistleblowers who sat in those seats 2 months ago and told their story. And their story has stood up. 2 brave whistleblowers and a judge in Delaware who said, we're not going to let this happen. That's why we're here today. That's why this inquiry is so darn important. It's the oldest story in the world, and those are the facts.